Do you ever notice when you're just trying to do something that other people would think is a pretty normal thing, like sending a text message or speaking up in a meeting or trying to post something online or even just asking someone for a hand with something? Do you ever notice that you get really scared? This fear just comes up through you. If you tell that to most people will say it's a confidence issue. You just need to be more confident. You need to build your confidence. But in my experience, it's not about confidence. It's about the fear itself. It's about your nervous system and how it responds to fear. Now, when I look at that fear within myself, I notice that it's not a fear of those situations, like speaking up in a meeting. It's a deeper level of fear that if something goes really, really wrong in that situation, I will be all alone with the results. And years ago, I was able to actually sort of condense that feeling, that amorphous feeling of fear, down into 3 very distinct beliefs. I'm all alone in this. It's all up to me. And it's all or nothing. So what does that mean? So number 1, I'm all alone in this. If something goes wrong, there's no one coming to help me. I'm going to suffer with it without any support or any comfort. That's really what that means to me. Number 2, it's all up to me. It's this tremendous weight of responsibility that's only on my shoulders for whatever the situation is. And when it's a text message, maybe it's not such a big deal. But my nervous system doesn't know that. My brain, that part of my brain that's getting activated from like early childhood, it doesn't know that. It sees this as massively important. And that sort of leads us to it's all or nothing, number 3. This belief is about the stakes feeling incredibly high. It feels like truly a catastrophe might happen if this does not go well. So when I'm speaking up in a meeting, it's going to be the worst thing that can possibly happen is likely to be the result. And that's where the fear is coming from these 3 different areas of feeling alone, feeling this tremendous responsibility, and feeling like the results could be completely catastrophic. Now, I think anyone put in that situation in reality would struggle. And just because this is sort of a old belief system doesn't make it any less difficult or painful or challenging to deal with. So if you relate to any of those 3 sort of core beliefs, you're not broken. You're stuck with some old ways of thinking, old beliefs, because you were not treated in the way that you should have been treated at some point. For a lot of us, this is in childhood, but it can happen at any age and under a lot of different circumstances. And if you've ever spent time with someone who grew up feeling very safe and supported, you'll notice that when they approach challenges in life, they never enter those situations feeling like if things go wrong, they're going to be all alone with the results of that situation. That would never enter their mind. They have this sort of underlying feeling or belief, a core belief for them, that there is this safety net underneath them at all times. So even though they've moved away from their parents, or even, they're older and their parents have passed away or whatever, they still have that sense that someone's going to be there for them, someone's going to help support them. They're not alone in whatever they're doing. And they might have a more, what I would call, more realistic appraisal of the stakes of a situation. Like, they might realize that sending a text is not that high stakes, or speaking up in a meeting is not that high of stakes. But for those of us who grew up without that sort of feeling of being safe and supported when we were young, our brain and nervous system and body at some point made the decision that, you know what, it's better to just treat everything like we're probably going to be alone if this doesn't work out. That's a safer way to be. The responsibility is on our shoulders, so we should take the situation seriously. We might as well treat the situation as very high stakes, because what if it is and we're all alone with it? It makes sense that we would be this way. So it's a protection mechanism. It's like if you imagine like, I don't know anything about the military, but if you imagine, like a military camp, and they have maybe some kind of fence around the border of it, and they have some guards that, circle around just to make sure no one's out there, no one's, no enemies are approaching. Now that sounds like what a normal army camp would look like, a military camp. There's some people going around, maybe there's some cameras, there's some spotlights, like looking over the situation. But for someone with those other beliefs that we've been talking about, those 3 core beliefs, they're going to treat that situation very differently. Every time they want to make sure there's no one around, they're going to turn on all the fire alarms or all the, enemy approaching alarms just to be safe, just to be sure, get everyone in the camp on high alert so that if there is a problem, they'll be ready to act at a moment's notice. Now, that might work once or twice, but if you keep doing that 24 hours a day, everyone in that military camp, they're going to be exhausted. They're not going to be able to sleep because these alarms are always going off. These lights are always flashing. And for me, that's really the definition of stress. It's when our alarm systems are on high alert all the time. And we never really have that downtime, that drop in our, stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. We never have any peace because our minds and nervous systems have learned never to feel safe and supported. So as I was watching this back, I realized there was an important point that I wanted to share with you. And that is that on one level, these core beliefs can show up in small ways, like how sending a text message or speaking up in a meeting can feel scary. But on another level, they can show up in bigger ways and really begin to shape how our life goes. For me, with my career, I pushed myself way past what my body could handle. And that's what I'm about to talk about now. So for me personally, I had a career in tech. And tech can be a very aggressive, competitive environment with a lot of downward pressure. Leadership is always pushing everyone as hard as they can. But it's amazing to me to think back now when I had those 3 core beliefs sort of running unconsciously under the surface. I was constantly pushing myself past the limits of my nervous system and my body and taking on this really intense level of stress all the time. And I would have a lot of different stress symptoms that would show up in my body. And the kind of scary part to me when I think back on it now is how I would just ignore all of it. I would maybe calm down a little bit and do things that were better for me just until I could get rid of those stress symptoms. And then as soon as they were gone, I was just back to sort of normal, what I called normal at the time. There's an old saying about how your body whispers before it shouts. And because I wasn't listening to the whispers, my body finally shouted. And I had a health issue that was big enough and scary enough that it made me really reevaluate what I was doing to myself and really see how unsustainable it was. And at that point, I had to make some really big decisions and make some really big changes in my life. And I think my hope for anyone watching this, for you, would be that you never get to that point where your body has to shout at you in order to change your ways, in order to really examine those core beliefs. And we can really begin to shift some of these patterns when we realize that our nervous system is trying to protect us. And this is part of being human. So my point in talking about my old job is not to say that we have to limit what we do in life. It's more to say that we need to be thoughtful about how far we can push our nervous system and how often. The goal is not to eliminate fear. The goal is to work within our range of nervous system activation. The goal is to make sure that we regulate ourselves before and after we do something that is very activating to our nervous system. And the goal is to use more words like nervous system activation and not just talk about fear, because they are the same thing. And one can bring about a lot of judgment on ourselves. Oh, we need to be more confident. We're just, lacking in confidence. We're not tough enough. We're not strong enough. That's when we talk about fear. When we talk about nervous system activation, which is the same thing, we can talk about how to regulate that a little bit more, how to discharge some of that activation so that we can approach things that legitimately scare us, but not back down. We can still do those things. We just need to be a little bit more thoughtful and have a little bit more of a methodology and a little bit more of a system around it for ourselves. So for me, those 3 core beliefs, I'm all alone in this, it's all up to me, and it's all or nothing. Those are more indicators for me that when I see those in my thoughts, when those beliefs are activated, that's a message to me. That's a time for me to say, oh, my nervous system is in an activated state. Like whatever I'm doing, I'm feeling like there's no safety net under me, that I'm not safe and supported. And in those situations, I can then work with my nervous system more. Before I do the scary thing, even like recording this video, I work with myself before I record it so that I'm not stuck in freeze or flight. I can actually have more access to my mind, to my body. I can feel a little bit more calm, even though those fears are still there. And that feeling of being unsupported is still there. And then after I record this, I will do things to regulate my nervous system again. I'll discharge some of that activation that built up while I recorded this. And I will regulate myself and come down from this so I don't just stay at this higher level of activation. And the more times we do this, the more times we work within the bounds of our nervous system, even pushing past a little bit, because there is quite a bit of flexibility with our nervous system. It's just not great when we are flexed to the max constantly for days on end. But as we sort of learn how to do this and work with ourselves and sort of almost dance with our nervous system in this way, it does begin to soften more and more. We don't necessarily shoot up to the roof with fear or with other types of nervous system activation just at a moment's notice, not as often. So it's often less intense and it's less frequent. One part of this practice that can be very helpful is to look back at something that we've done that was very activating and really sit with how we felt before we did it and how those 3 core beliefs came up, or how our nervous system was very activated and how we were working with it and trying to regulate it beforehand. And then how we did through the experience and how we felt afterward. And really look at that whole event. Because we'll see things when we do that. We'll see that it wasn't maybe as bad as we thought it might be. And that does sink in. That does help us see that experience in a different light. And over time, when we've done that more and more, that experience won't seem quite as scary when we approach it in the future. Our nervous system won't get as activated because we have all of this data that we've studied. We didn't just get through it like, oh, I survived it, I got through it, and now I'm moving on to the next thing. We took a pause. And that's a part of this practice, is to take a pause and look back and see that whole roller coaster we went through. From before we did the thing, to send the text, speak up in a meeting, post something online, whatever it is. For me, maybe making a video. We see how we felt beforehand. We see how we felt during it, and we see how we felt after. And it gives us more context, it gives us more perspective, so that the next time we do that thing, the next time we speak up in a meeting, the next time I record a video, it feels different. Some of that activation has softened quite a bit. But this takes repetition, and it happens slowly over time. And this is how we can still do the things that we want to do in life, while having nervous systems that are easily activated, while we still feel a lot of fear about a lot of different things. And this is how we can stop having that conversation about whether or not we're lacking self-confidence. Because that really, in a lot of these cases, it's not the issue at all. And this is how we learn that we can live the life that we want to live without being fully healed. I'm talking about these core beliefs that come up when we are trying to do something that really activates our nervous system. Because these are the kinds of things that come up when we are trying to do meaningful work, when we want to share our voice with the world. And this is how I help people in my coaching practice as a trauma-informed coach. I work with sensitive creators who are working to share their voice with the world and do it in a way that works with their nervous system and not against it. So I'm curious for you, when I talked about those 3 core beliefs, I'm all alone in this, it's all or nothing, and it's all up to me, which one of those resonates with you the most, or do you feel all of those? I'd love to know if you want to share in the comments. It might help other people who are watching as well know that they are not alone in this. And for me, the main takeaway in this video is that you don't have to become completely fearless in order to do the things that you want to do in your life. By the way, my name is Isaac, and this channel is Deep by Design. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, then welcome back. It's really great to have you here. Until the next video, be kind to yourself and take good care.